She said that American soccer fans, most of them aren't smart. They don't know the game. They don't understand.
Gio.
That guy Gazpacho.
Sports can take a lame gorilla, okay?
Advice, did you know that Arsenal died?
These got me buzzing.
Up the TOFFEEs. It's hard to up them anyway.
I'm even gonna comment on that.
I'm actually in the market.
Hey!
Welcome back to Footy with the boys. A big weekend it was, including an Arsenal Everton game that had fireworks galore, goals everywhere, boys. And a point for each side. We'll go into our Gunners and Toffees check-in, looking at the week ahead and where they sit in the table, get to some featured previews, and of course, a U.S. men's national team corner that includes some new segs with the boys. We'll talk about who's most important for the U.S. men's national team, other than, of course, Christian Pulisic. But first, let's start with the big news. The big news was, of course, the Manchester Derby, a little Jisung Park jersey as a tribute to it. Ruben Amorim left Sporting Lisbon to come to Manchester United just so he could beat Pep Guardiola twice. Come back late here, Bruno Fernandes with a penalty, and then Amad Diallo, who's putting together a sneaky good season here with the winner, a 2-1 win here. Nick, is City just done? This is 11 games with one win in that stretch. I don't think I could have ever seen this coming for Manchester City and Pep Guardiola.
Yeah, Pep's taking the blame. Said in an interview, he's like, "This is on me. I'm not putting them in good spots." And let me tell you, you watch a City game, he's right. That team looks shit. They have no idea where to be. Usually, there's a guy in the middle of the park controlling it. Even with De Bruyne healthy, he has not been a controller. We've talked extensively about the Fod and Ghost show. The Rodri injury is obvious, but yeah, that team. A team that is known for having boring games that are just controlled, and you kind of know the end result from start to finish. They are lacking that as of late, and I mean, we pronounced them dead several times, but they are well out of this title race at the moment.
It seems absurd just how long this horrible streak has gone on. And Mike, we watched this one. I mean, it wasn't that amazing. It wasn't great football by Man U or Man City by any stretch of the imagination. Man U gets some late goals here. Amad Diallo, though, throughout the game was a pretty consistent threat. He has 6 assists, which is good for tied for third most in the Premier League this season. In limited minutes, where is Amad Diallo the one that they're building around now at Manchester United? I mean, he's been the best player, I would say.
I think build around's a strong word or strong phrase.
Build the
He's not
attack
that
out
kind
of
of player. He's not overly talented, but he's an absolute workhorse.
Yeah, that seems
Like,
a bit harsh.
He's such a thorn in someone's side. Well, it's not harsh when you
He's
say
not talented.
building
Yeah.
around. He's not
He's
somebody
not
building
talented.
around. That's
You
super
called
hyperbolic.
Garnacho the future of Argentina.
For this season.
Garnacho's 19 years old. Amad Diallo is someone who never stops running.
21, no?
In the Everton game, in this game, in every game he's played significant minutes, he never stops moving. He catches someone flat-footed, takes the ball off them, and creates something. He did it twice in this game. He has, just unlimited energy. Gets to the 88th minute of the game, wins a pen. I don't know what Nunez is doing in that tackle. So dumb. And then scores the winner because his work rate. I mean, I don't know what the fuck he's doing. I don't know how he gets in that space to begin with. And then he's like, you know what? I'm just going to hack him because I can.
Hey, I got some names for you guys in the DIO debate. Okay, first of all, he's a top what winger in the Prem?
10.
He's a top 10 winger in the Prem.
I think there's an argument there.
Top 20.
All right. Let me just shout some names.
I think he's the top one on Manchester. He's the top one on Manchester United right now. But I don't think.
All right, let's start there. Diallo or Rashford?
Diallo. I think it is
Diallo or Rashford. I'd take Rashford still. How about Semenyo from Bournemouth?
Semenyo.
Diallo.
What's Chan from Wolves? That's his name, right?
Diallo. Hwang Hee Chan.
Hwang Chan. Yeah, I'd take Diallo over him.
Let's go then. How about Iwobi?
Diallo.
I'd take Diallo over him.
Hudson
Let's not
Odoi.
get disrespectful. Diallo.
Diallo.
Hudson Odoi is having a great season that no one's
He's
talking
having a
about.
great season.
Yeah.
All right.
We tried to
all
put
right,
that up
let's
for
up
us, Nick.
it.
You don't like
Let's
it.
up it a little bit. How about Yuan Visa?
Ooh, it's a very different player. I'll go UN Wisa on that.
Yeah.
If
I
you
thought
take
you'd go
Visa,
either way.
you got to take Mbomo too, right?
Yeah, you're 100% taking Bomo.
I don't think Wisa's really a winger, but
I think
yeah,
Mbomo's
Bomo
better.
for sure.
Brennan Johnson?
Diallo.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think I go Brennan Johnson. How about
this
Madueke?
is listen,
Diallo.
as much as I love guys naming names and saying yes or no, I think he's
that's my
a
entire life.
middle of the pack winger of the Premier League, maybe slightly higher, but he also is the best winger right now, most creative player at Manchester United, just because he
No, he's
tries
not.
shit.
You're completely misreading him. He is not nearly the most creative player. That's not his game. He's having
All
a huge
he does
impact.
is dribble at people every time he gets the ball. He creates for them.
Surges. He doesn't create. He runs straight with the ball at high pace and then gets goals or gets assists. It's not a creative player.
Did Flaxman say he has the third most assists in the Prem?
He has the third most assists.
I think, or 6.
He has 6. He's tied for third with a certain Jedi Robinson we'll talk about. But
that's not creative.
Certainly creative. Yeah, I think if you're creating 6 assists, you're at least adjective-wise creative. Who am I to say adjectives that fit creating 6 assists?
There's no way he's top 10, by the way.
No,
that's
he's
an argument.
obviously not top 10.
And I could say he's not even top 20.
He's better than Martinelli.
He's better than Martinelli. That's not a high standard this season, but also just a low blow by you on Nick here. Speaking of Arsenal and Martinelli, Arsenal, Nick, drop points to Everton here. We'll talk more about this. Liverpool also dropped points, though, this weekend. Does that make this draw against Everton any better? And, I mean, it looked bad from Arsenal. It didn't look that amazing from Everton, but a 0-0 draw against Everton. I mean, we were talking, would they score 4 goals or not?
Okay. First of all, that's crazy for you not to be hyping up your boys. I thought Everton looked great in that game for what they've been looking like. That was classic
for what they've
ball.
been looking like.
I mean, they ran their ass off. They were 11 behind. Calvert-Lewin was like amazing hold-up plays. I mean, I don't want to take Mike's segment from him, but Everton played great. I honestly like. We'll get into the game in a little. So to answer your question, no, Liverpool's draw does not make me feel any better.
All right. Well, that does kind of draw us into Arsenal as a whole here. It's a draw versus Everton. I mean, you don't lose points in the title race because
At home,
Liverpool also drew, but man, it's not looking great. It's just not clicking for Arsenal. You have Crystal Palace coming up, Cup and League tie. Is that a game where maybe you can get some momentum back, or what needs to happen for Arsenal here? Because it's not happening right now.
listen, you just said we lost points in the title race. I'm here to tell you there is no title race. Arsenal are not currently in any sort of title race. Are you kidding me? Like they are miles off it at the moment. And to be fair, I've been putting a lot of blame on Arteta lately. I thought he did just about everything you could. Maybe you put Nwaneri in instead of Marino, instead of Odegaard. He subbed him off for Odegaard like 65 minutes in. But everything else, he made subs quickly. He did a lineup that I liked. He, you got to point at the players here. Yeah, these guys are drastically underperforming. Start with the guy who Tracy just threw shade at, and I mean, deservedly so. Martinelli's looked awful. His best attribute by far is his pace, and consistently, like he never uses it. Anytime he has space in behind, he's turning around and passing, and maybe that's Arteta getting too much in his ear, or maybe that's a lack of confidence. But I mean, you can say we know the talent, but he has looked awful. Trossard hasn't looked any better. Marino, we sold Xhaka years ago for upgrades, and Xhaka would run circles around Mikel Marino the way he looked on the weekend. these players got the game right now is let's see if Bukayo Saka can win us a game. And as soon as Everton triples up on Saka, it is really fucking hard to win a game like 1 versus 11. So he's been our most consistent performer. Kai Havertz is I think the right guy in that system when the system is working. When the system is not working, he offers you nothing up there. I mean, it is looking bad right now, and I've been blaming Arteta, but I think he tried new things. He put different players out there. He made quick subs. None of it worked. These players need to take accountability, and it is looking real bad. And I mean, I don't give a shit until Liverpool drop off huge form, until Arsenal win 8 in a row in the Prem. There is no title race. This isn't. Can we get back into it? I don't know, and I don't care right now because right now we are nowhere near the levels needed to take advantage of a shit City season and take advantage of like our 2 years of progress, of real progress. This has been a huge step back this year.
Yeah, definitely a step back. I thought Arsenal were primed to take control, and if you told me that Man City had 1 win in 11 games, I would be like, holy shit, Arsenal are running away with this thing, especially with Schlatt coming in for Klopp, and Chelsea's still such a mystery. But I think at this point, you have to say Chelsea is looking as significantly better in terms of play. I mean, it looks like everything's clicking for Chelsea, and it's looking so hard for things to click for Arsenal. Like you said, it's really Saka dependent there. Mike, flipping the coin to the other side, Everton get the draw here. Maybe I'm more negative just because I've been conditioned from the season. I didn't think that Everton were necessarily anything of, oh my God, we're building off something amazing here. I think a point against Arsenal is amazing for Everton. I certainly was expecting us to get murdered here, and we didn't. I thought Broha had a good appearance and certainly just some hold-up play. I don't think he did really anything too crazy, but just his energy, physicality, and hold-up, I thought did a lot. But how positive are you looking at this result in terms of Everton as a whole? Because I think as a game, obviously, point at Arsenal, you're saying, hell yeah. As a whole, I'm still not really sold on DYCHE. What about you?
I'll never be sold on DYCHE. He is exactly what we know he is. But when he could get his club, his team to perform like this, it's pretty great. This is Everton style. This is DYCHE style when it's at its best. I thought the guys worked really hard against Arsenal. Definitely a hustle game. The midfield bossed all game. The defensive line was super steady. Mikolenko played out of his mind against Saka. And DYCHE tracked back really deep to double on him, which was huge. Pickford was obviously massive, made a number of big saves, really kept us in the game there towards the middle of it. I'm going to be critical of the subs again. That's DYCHE's biggest flaw. Not his fault, maybe in this game specifically, because we're without some of the main dudes we would pull off the bench. McNeil wasn't available. That was a late addition to the injury list. Garner and Irabunum are still there. But he did bring Broja into the game at a pretty good time, as well as Lindstrom, which I thought was...
Started Mangala.
I think both were good subs. I think Mangala was a good start next to Gay in the midfield. And I like what you said about Broja. I think he bullied Saliba and Gabriel several times. He's a physical dude. The issues there were he was so isolated. We had no one to run with him. And DYCHE and Lindstrom and Harrison, when he was playing, all got gassed at some point and really couldn't run up the field anymore. Needed McNeil there, needed a sub of some sort. Did enough to tie the game for sure. Definitely a deserved tie, I would say, but did not do enough to win the game. A goal would have had to come from a set piece, and there were not a whole lot of those to be had. Overall, pretty positive performance, though.
Yeah,
I am shocked you guys are not gassing this performance. That was, I don't know if we watched that. Everton was amazing. They shut down Arsenal.
I think it's
Pickford played great in the first half, but the second half, Arsenal had nothing the entire time. That was as committed of a performance as you can have from an Everton football.
I think it was a good defensive performance, but I'm not going to get super hyped up. And I just also don't think Arsenal created much at all.
Arsenal sucks. Jesus Christ.
You guys were so bad in the second half. It was unreal. I couldn't believe I was watching Arsenal. I like a lot of Arsenal's play, especially last year. You guys were misplaying simple passes. Passes were going out of bounds. Movement was poor. Dudes looked like they had no chemistry. Trossard was really bad. He would cut in on Ashley Young, who he's half his age, and then play a ball to nobody. He played several balls that went out on the end line because no one was making a run when he's trying to play a ball in. I was shocked how poor you guys were in the second half.
You just went away at the Emirates against like a legit top 4 side and came out with a point. And I don't know. I thought you'd be more excited for this.
I think it's an amazing point, but we're talking about the actual analysis of what happened on the field of play. I think it was good to get the point. They did what they needed, but it wasn't like they played some masterclass to outplay.
You're talking about Broha being like that's the game plan for the 9 to be isolated. You're talking about Ndiaye, like he can't do both. Like Branthwaite, Mikolenko, and Ndiaye were on Saka the entire fucking game and like on him for not being up there to like that was the whole game plan. It wasn't to go and get a goal on a counter. Like the game plan was to shut Arsenal down.
They did,
and it was
job,
executed
but it's not
perfectly.
Like Everton showed something amazing that oh my god, I can't believe it. And it's not like Everton was pushing them to some high extreme level of defense. It was they executed well, but I don't think Arsenal looked sharp. That was oh my god, they're shutting down such great attacking moves from Arsenal.
The expectation for Everton should never be to be taking the game to a team. Like that is never going to be.
We're not saying that. I don't know why you're debating
that. You literally just said that you didn't. That we didn't take it to him. That's what you just said.
Yep. But I'm not saying that take it to him. I mean, take it to him as in like outperform them in some type of way. They're not doing that, and they didn't. They were sitting back 11 behind the ball. It's not going to be like. Really, unless you have something extraordinary, oh my God, what an amazing performance we can build off sitting 11 people behind. It's an amazing result, and I'm very happy with the. But I'm not sitting here being like, oh my God, we figured it out. We're going to sit 11 behind the ball against every person.
You can absolutely build off that performance on top 6 away games to know that you can like trust your players aside you and like commit to a performance like that. That is a huge thing to build off of.
I think this is maybe the point, Mike, that I'm saying here is I thought it was a good performance. We obviously stopped. We got the draw here. I don't feel as confident going against Chelsea, who have looked very good in the attack. I thought Arsenal looked sluggish, like you were saying, just simple things just not happening for Arsenal in the attack. I don't know if we see that same thing up against Chelsea. How do you feel about Chelsea next weekend? They've been on a tear scoring goals and just have some players that are in some fine form.
I mean, I think Chelsea's scarier than Arsenal at the moment, based on what you said. Those attacking players, Cole Palmer in particular.
That is literally Sean Dyche cutting out his fucking internet because you guys aren't supporting the boys like you should be. I mean, absolutely ridiculous.
Arsenal just was not that great. What Mike is saying is Chelsea is just a more dangerous team at this point. A lot of why Everton were able to get done is admittedly because Arsenal did not look the greatest. And you could say maybe that is because Everton looked so amazing against them defending that shut down everything. But it also just looked a little sluggish from Arsenal. Chelsea have looked a lot better in the attack. Arsenal looked as sluggish as Mike's internet, you could say. But now he's back, and his internet is moving don't have like Chelsea. It's clear. It's crisp.
You don't have confidence in them at home against Chelsea? You don't think they can get a result?
What would Everton have done to give us confidence throughout the season? They've blown
you just went away to Arsenal and got a point.
I have confidence that we
one game.
Try to lock it down. It's a losing formula. That's the issue. When it works, you get a 0-0 draw. Maybe you nab a 1-0 on a corner kick. But that's Dyche ball. That's the maximum potential of Dyche ball. I've seen it for 3 years now. I've seen it for several years at Burnley before then. There is no optimism to be had because you're missing the whole scoring piece of soccer, the counter piece of soccer. There was potential to score on a counterattack in that Arsenal game in the second half with those cheap giveaways, but we set ourselves so deep in a low block and have no options off the bench that the potential really goes away. I think we'll do the same thing here. I think we'll double down on that low block, start the same 11, and hopefully get a 0-0 draw.
Yeah, I think 0-0 is the
You guys would
hope
get
in
kicked
this
out of
one. But
Goodison.
Yeah, we
Nick,
would.
this is, you don't have to be a wild optimist thinking, oh my God, Sean Dyche has figured it out because he sat back 11 behind a ball and Arsenal couldn't figure out the attack, which they haven't been able to. They've been looking like they're having issues creatively. He didn't figure something out amazing. If he gets a draw against Chelsea,
points,
I'll be more impressed.
My team's on 15 points for the fourth season in a row.
You guys. Also, let's not act like Arsenal didn't just win 3-0 in the Champions League as if like they have zero fucking creativity in their like that is you. Our captain
Nick,
got like
oh
shit
my
off the
goodness.
pitch.
I don't understand how
We
you
scored
don't
14
understand
goals
any
this year.
context. Arsenal has been struggling. Everton sat back, and Arsenal didn't punish them on one of the chances as they sat back. We got the draw. It's an amazing point for us to have, but it's not like all of a sudden we're world beaters and we should take so much from it and have so much confidence. We've also watched the remaining 14 games that they've played this season.
You are both
context. Listen,
you are underrating both Arsenal and Everton.
We can go back and forth on this. Let's move into the featured matchup of the weeks. We start with Aston Villa versus Man City. And if you would have asked us about this matchup like 8 weeks ago, even longer now with Man City being so shit, this would have been a hell of a matchup going into the year. Aston Villa, Man City. Now Aston Villa's kind of been dropping off. Manchester City has been dropped off. That's been done. I mean, should Villa be favorites here? They're still below City in the table, but that's also due to some of their own bad form. But Man City is just, they can't get a win. Nick, should they be favored?
Yeah, I think so. At home, that's a big deal. Man City, again, the lack of control in the midfield. Not that Villa's midfield has looked any better, to be fair, but at home versus a struggling side, I don't know. Like the villains are going to be fucking on it in the stands. I don't know if City's feeling an iota of confidence coming into this game. These players are doubting themselves big time. And Villa, for all you can say, they know that they're a dangerous team. Like they just know that they are. They know that they first of all, they've gotten big results versus the Big Six before. And they're probably not too intimidated by the City team right now. So do I think they should be favorites? Yeah, I think they should.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we'll find out what the real truth of these two teams are here this weekend. Aston Villa coming off a loss to Nottingham Forest. Man City did beat them. That was their one win in their 11 games. So we'll see what happens there. The other featured matchup here is Liverpool versus Tottenham. And I think you could say streaky form for Tottenham. That just goes hand in hand. Liverpool coming off a draw against Fulham. Fulham looked like they could have pulled it out for the win. Liverpool just has that team of destiny feeling where they always get either the draw or the win. They come back like none other. Tottenham have been able to slay some giants in the past, but they haven't looked too great here, Mike. Is this a Tottenham-esque game where they're just going to randomly win one of these huge ones? Or do you think Arne Slot just has the boys always buzzing a bit too much?
Tottenham sure can score. I mean, they've scored 8 goals in their last 2 games, 5 come against Southampton. So do with that what you will. This is a good matchup. Liverpool definitely looked beatable against Fulham. Some of that's the red card that Robertson got early in the match. But Fulham played well. Anthony Robinson was the best player in that match. Really bossed up the whole left side of the field. Showed their right backs, Trent, defensive mishaps. I think Tottenham's got a real chance in this game. I like a draw.
Yeah, I think with the way that Liverpool have been playing recently, kind of finding themselves in some holes and not fully being able to dig themselves out, Nick, they're leaving this title charge a little without the gas they had at the start of the season. They're dropping a couple points here. Are they leaving the door open too much for these other teams? Because, I mean, Arsenal's dropping points. Man City has dropped a shit ton. Is it not a ruthlessness of them to be continually dropping points here?
Yeah, I mean, they're lacking that killer edge as a squad, but like we've said before, they also have the best player, arguably in the world, in Mo Salah, and he still has that killer edge in him. They were able to come back from down in the game to get a draw with 10 men, which is impressive, I would say, against a strong Fulham team that also just drew Arsenal. And I'm not too worried about them. I know it's 2-point gap, but I'm pretty sure they have the game in hand because the whole Everton, Merseyside being canceled. So maybe they are leaving the door open. That being said, Tottenham is not the team to like crank that door wide open. They get just shit on by every big six side, not named Man City. So I am not feeling confident at all that Tottenham are going to be able to get any sort of result here. And honestly, if you ask me what I would rather have, would I rather Tottenham win 3-2 or would I rather like Tottenham lose 5-0? I'd rather Tottenham lose 5-0. I don't give a shit. Fuck Tottenham.
Spoken like a true hater. I love it. Also
Listen.
saying Tottenham has no shot here. You might have good betting advice to go bet the house on Tottenham because that's a jinx if I've ever heard one. Boys, let's move to a packed U.S. men's national team corner here. We'll move in with Gio Reyna. Who else would we be talking about other than Gio Reyna, as he scored a banger this weekend in a second consecutive start for Borussia Dortmund, Mike. Julian Brandt's out with a hamstring, and Mike, he has taken full advantage of that spot being open with a start in the Champions League versus Barcelona and a second straight start here, getting a goal in this one. Massive for him. Otherwhere in the midfield for the U.S., McKennie scored a scissor kick in the Champions League from a Weah assist, American to American, for the first time in the Champions League, a similar goal to his 2020 goal against Barcelona. The U.S. will be playing against Japan, is the most recent report, in a pre-World Cup match. That is going to be next autumn. So getting some different opponents. No more Panama and Jamaica every single international window, although we will be playing Costa Rica again this window. But, we won't talk about that one. And then Balogun announced today that he was having surgery on that shoulder, came back from that injury, got worse, surgery, and he's out for 4 months.
Shout out!
I mean, that is just
medical team.
Brutal. Jesus Christ, that is awful. 4 months for his shoulder surgery there. Well, let's end on a positive with the U.S. men's national team corner before we get into our new seg. Jedi Robinson, 2 assists versus Liverpool. We talked about it a little bit. He is third in the league in assists as a left back. Absurd. He's been the left back that all the top teams are wanting. United, Liverpool. I don't know. That's really the only two that I've seen that much. Everton. He was an Everton Academy grad.
Come home.
Where should he go, Nick? Because it seems to be that he's getting maybe a little too big for Fulham. He's becoming the best player on the pitch most time they're out. He's ready for that big move, it looks like. Where should he go? Where's best for his career?
Best for his career is to stay at Fulham. I think that a big money move to a really big side would come with a lot of pressure. I'm not sure. Why ruin a good thing, in my opinion? Why risk getting buried behind competition, especially from USMNT perspective? If I had to pick a team, he's obviously always fit the Liverpool perspective. Obviously, Andy Robertson's not the player he used to be, but I don't know. This feels like, why are we messing with a good thing? Why not become the captain at Fulham and just become a club legend and keep performing at the level he is, keep being a great player for the USMNT? I wouldn't mess with a good thing if I was Jedi.
You don't think he has any type of progression or increase in what he can do if he goes to a top level side and continues to train?
I don't think so. I mean, what is he going to get better at? Like, he's at a good side. He's in the Premier League. He's making buttloads of cash. Like, I think at this point,
I think he'd be maybe making a buttload more of cash if he went anywhere else other than Fulham. I don't think they're paying quite as handsomely as Man U or
Greed's a sin, brother. Also, in the Premier League these days, you never know. Who knows?
That is true. So, all of a sudden, the Saudi oil prince falls in love with Fulham, and you're
yeah, seriously. I don't know. I'd like him. I like him with Fulham. He's been there forever. I think at this point, he probably has an attachment to the club. I wouldn't mess with a good thing.
All right, Mike, are you in the same space, or you wanted to see him in some potentially greener pastures.
He's got to come to MLS. That's the only option, I think.
Can you imagine
I mean,
how many goals
Landon
Gio would
and
have scored in
Alexi said it
MLS?
best.
Imagine.
That would have been absurd.
I think Liverpool would be a fine move. I think you can fit that system where Trent's the more creative guy and he's more of a traditional fullback, can kind of bomb up the wing. I think he is kind of tapped out skill-wise. I don't see him progressing a whole lot more. He's very, very good, don't get me wrong. But I don't know if he adds any more elements to his game. Fulham, I think I ride with Nick. I think that's a good shout. Become a club legend is the way to go.
All right. No Ruben
Fulham's
Amorim.
like, I think Fulham, if you say in the next year,
Fuck that, dude.
if you said at the end of this year they finish like top 8 and then next year they finish top 6, like I could believe that for Fulham.
Yeah, I mean, they've looked very good this season. And
Seriously.
Jedi Robinson being a big part of that, as now, as you said, their captain. So certainly somebody that could stay there. And obviously, as long as they're staying in the Premier League with Fulham, looking all right. Boys, let's move into, speaking of important players for Fulham, important players for the U.S. men's national team. We have ranked our top 3 most important players for the U.S. men's national team, not named Christian Pulisic. Of course, he would just be number 1 for everybody. We're going to start with number 3. Everybody's number 3. I have gone with Gio Reyna. I think he creates a massive difference for our team in terms of...
Read the sheet.
Yeah, I don't know. Somebody put in Shaq Moore there. That's an interesting shout. But Gio Reyna, I think what he adds to the midfield in the attack is absolutely massive. You'll see from the other 2 I put in why I didn't say him as number 1, but you could certainly make an argument. But what an important player. Mike, who did you put as your 3rd most important player behind
Big Weston McKennie. I think the U.S. looks so much better when he's at his best. He's on his best day. He's a top 2 player for the United States. Long-standing player. When he shows up in big games, we perform so well. We saw that against England in the World Cup for sure. He can contribute goals. His work rate is crazy. He puts in defensive tackles. And I think he is crucial to the U.S. having success going forward.
Yeah, I think under this Pochettino system too, just based off what we've seen of him getting into the attack and using his work rate, it's pretty catered towards him and showing out. Nick, what did you choose as your 3rd most important?
Yeah, I thought about Wes and some other midfielders there. You know, I'm a big Eunice guy. Obviously, I'm sure Tyler Adams will be mentioned on this list somewhere, but there's just so much depth there, it feels like, that I don't know if I can call them the most important. Let me tell you somewhere we don't have depth, and that's center back, because we don't even really have a true number 1 center back. True. Or even a starting pair that you can feel pretty decent about. Which means that Chris Richards has to be the 3rd most important player, not named Christian Pulisic. Listen, he is the only one with the actual talent, I think, to lock down a real starting spot there, one that you feel really confident about. He's a guy who we have seen play well before at the club level. And he's a guy who I'm a personal believer in. And I'm a big believer in building a team down the middle. That spine starts with the center back, and you have to have a guy there that you absolutely trust in all situations. I don't think he's that guy right now, if I'm being honest, but if he can get there by 2026, I think that would boost my confidence in our chances tenfold in this World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, center back is certainly a position in need, and he's the one that stands out. Mike, do you have something on that?
I mean, as a center back, I totally agree with Nick. It's so important. It's especially in Poch's system with how ball heavy both of these guys have to be. It's really an important position. We don't have distribution from goalkeeper, so that makes the position even more important. And then with how high this team is going to press, these dudes have to be on the money every single day. I think Nick's right. Chris Richards is the guy who stands out in that crop of players.
Yeah, I think that leads me into the 2nd most important player that I chose, kind of for similar reasons of our defense doesn't have a lot of depth, and certainly at right back, I don't think we have a crazy amount, and there's at least a big difference. I went with Serginho Dest as our big difference, our 2nd most important player behind Christian Pulisic. Joe Scally is a decent backup, and he's been serviceable for this past year as Des has been out with this ACL injury. But there was a massive drop off. I mean, I think one of the reasons why Greg Berhalter's system looks so bad once he was rehired is because he didn't have Serginho Dest to just be such an insanely big creative attacking force for the US from that right side. I mean, him and Weah were just a fun side. They were more creative, I think you could say at times, than Pulisic and Jedi, just because Dest would constantly make little dribble runs. He would break lines. I mean, when he came in for that January camp and played Mexico, he dribbled like 5 players to then set up the game-tying goal. He is just a massive difference maker and something that you just do not get from Joe Scally. It just seems like Joe Scally, even when things have been going well for him, is just maybe a little uncomfortable on the ball. And obviously, Serginho Dest is maybe the least uncomfortable person on the ball that the American national team has ever seen. So I think getting him back is massive for just boosting this team up another level. Matt Turner may be the one man. You know what, Nick? You fucking found him. Where's Waldo did. Those two on the ball have not looked great. And Joe Scally, because he has to be on the ball more, has made quite a few mistakes and just errant passes. Mike, do you agree? Where have you gone for your second most important player behind Christian Pulisic?
I do agree with you. I think Dest is hugely important. He's a difference maker. He's a game winner on his day. And he's really just a special player. Certainly miss him. Need him back ASAP. I went across the field. I went to his counterpart, Jedi Robinson, on the left flank. I thought about Serginho. I was only going to pick one of the fullbacks. I think Jedi just does a bit more for me. He's not as creative for sure. Not a flair guy like Serginho, but he does so much for us. I talked about maybe he doesn't have other dimensions to his game. That might not be fair. We've seen him utilized a little bit more centrally with Poch in the last window. Needed to see it against fiercer competition before we get a verdict there. But this guy does everything. He frees up our most important player on the field. He lets Pulisic operate how he wants to, which is amazing. And at the same time, he gets in the attack, makes overlapping runs, provides assists, drags guys out of position. He's really a threat in that regard. And then with how weak our defensive pool is, he covers. He tracks back like no other. He's probably the fastest guy on the team. Super athlete, really does it all. I think he is definitely one of the most important players.
Yep. Certainly a good shout, and I may agree with that one. I'll let that be just at that for right now. Nick, who is your second most important player for the U.S. men's national team?
So like I said, when I'm building my teams, I build them out from the spine. Both Dest and Jedi, if you're saying the best players outside of Pulisic, both of them would make my list here. They're that talented. They're that good. They're that enjoyable to watch. But if we're talking about most important, I just can't give it to an outside back, even if they get more usage in Poch's system than like a Berhalter system. They're a luxury in my mind, and they always will be. And maybe that's just my own bias, which means that we're sticking with the spine. And the guy that's, well, honestly, preview guys, I just need someone to step up at the striker spot, and I'm narrowing it down to Flo or Pepe. If you want to say Pepe right now, obviously Flo, big news, obviously out injured, so let's just call it Pepe at the moment. But at the end of the day, you win games by scoring goals. And yeah, drawing games in a group stage versus a opponent that's better than you is a good thing, but to win games, to get past knockout stages games, we need to score goals, and that means someone needs to be firing up front. I think Flo has the talent. I think Pepe might fit the system a little bit better, and maybe this year is convincing me that he could have the talent. But we need someone to be popping the goals in. It can't just be Pulisic, especially as you get later in the stages of a World Cup where people are going to be keying in and game planning for you a little bit more. So I'm picking the number 9. I don't think it's a bad shout. And whether it be Flo, whether it be Pepe, whether it's Brandon Vasquez, I don't care. The striker needs to be on fire. He is the second most important outside of Christian Pulisic.
Cop out, choosing position. But I do agree.
I'll say Pepe.
We definitely need them. Yeah, I mean, he's on some type of form. Definitely need one of them to pop off here and be one of those massive players. That leads us to our most important players outside of Christian Pulisic in the U.S. men's national team. I'm going back to the well, to Mike's number 2 answer. I've gone with Jedi Robinson as my choice as the most important player behind Christian Pulisic. I think you could say the second best player, best informed player right now behind Christian Pulisic as well. I guess Pepe might be above him, but just absolutely amazing for Fulham. And really the big thing is Dest and Gio Reyna, when they're in, boost up this team a whole lot. Anthony Robinson does that, but also without him, there's a gigantic gaping hole left in our left back position because I don't know who does play there. Is it Christopher Lund, who's right now struggling in Serie B? Is it John Tolkien, who really hasn't been able to play much? I mean, Tim Weah might be honestly the best shout.
Marcus Beasley.
That's the thing is, if Jedi Robinson cannot play, this U.S. men's national team left side is fucked because you're not going to have as good of a defender. They're not going to be able to combine as well in the attack with Pulisic, which has been, just as we saw last camp, massive. The way he can combine, the way he can be tactically flexible and move inside, take those ideas and run with them and play at a high level. I just think there's such a massive gap between Jedi Robinson and anyone else that can play that position that it makes it so important, whereas everywhere else, you at least have some decent amount of depth.
Don't you think, though, you can hide a left back, though? Put someone out there and give him support. Don't tell him to go up too much. Theoretically, if Jedi is injured,
that's what you do with Best. I think that's why I think Scally, you can hide him a bit, and that's why I put him behind Jedi's. Who the fuck are you hiding? Because they're going to be sticking out like a sore thumb. Every other position has depth. So
you can hide one bad defender. You can't hide 4, Nick. That's just called a holy wall, dude.
Hey, you don't have to defend if you're attacking all the time.
Hell yeah.
Tell that to Pep.
Gio and Malik Tillman, both in the starting 11. I believe we found to Jedi Robinson.
Malik Tillman's a lefty, right? He could play left back.
He played CDM. Mike, who have you gone with your most important player?
I have to agree with Nick that the spine is just more important at the end of the day. There was only one player I'd ever choose when he's available. That's Tyler Adams. He is our captain. He's our leader. He's a difference maker. And with how shaky, how undependable, non-reliable, just who knows who you're going to get at center back, he is the most important. He shields this team. He makes the center backs play with more confidence, and he wins the ball. When we turn over the ball, which we inevitably will, and we'll do it in really high press situations, he's going to be the guy to win it back, make a tackle, take a foul, choose somebody out, keep them positionally sound. I expect Potts to get the best out of him, for him to be one of his go-to guys, to keep the armband. And we see him make differences in every aspect of the game, whether it's a thundering long shot on the off occasion, a crucial 50-50, nicking a ball and turning it into instant attack. In all of the standout performances over the last couple of years, Tyler Adams has been involved. He's been the focal point. He's an unsung hero a lot of the time, but it doesn't take away from his importance. I don't think this team does anything without Tyler Adams. You could talk about Johnny Cardoso. You could talk about Yunus Musa playing the 6, Tanner Tessman when he gets a little bit better. None of them can hold a fucking candle to Tyler Adams. They have other qualities. None of them have the intensity. None of them have the fight. And none of them have the team like he does.
I'm going to be honest. When you were talking, I was thinking of Pochettino's system. Tyler Adams may be, obviously outside of Pulisic, he might be right there with Pulisic as 1B. The way he fits in Pochettino's system, that press is going to work like magic with Tyler Adams. He fits perfectly into that.
Like a glove.
I actually thought I had the exact opposite thought because he has 2 deep lying guys. Yeah. I understand the counter press thing, but he's going to have a partner. So he used to we used to play with just a lone 6, and I thought he was a lot more valued there. Also, counterpoint, we might just never give up the ball again. So Potch in.
Listen, I wouldn't be opposed. To that.
In an ideal world. Yeah, right.
Give us your argument. Who's the most important, Nick? I think I may like this answer.
Listen, the reason we'll never give him the ball up again is because this guy's going to be at our 10. If you're talking about the most important player outside of Christian Pulisic, especially for a 2026 World Cup run, there's only one other person on this team that has the talent level of a Christian Pulisic, aka the talent level to be one of the best players in the world on his day. And that man is Gio Reyna. Now, obviously, he has had injury issues. Obviously, he's had playtime issues. Obviously, he's had some head scratching career moves, as Pulisic did. But when this man is on, like, it is hard to tell who the better player is between him and Pulisic. Like, legit. The reason Pulisic is considered clear is because of his consistency in the last 2-3 years. But if you're talking just pure talent, he is every bit the player that Pulisic is, and just finds magic in big times. I think you can argue Dest can do that too, but again, just not as important a position and not as consistently leading to actual goals, actual contributions. And so I think that if I could choose one person, if you say Pulisic is locked in and you say one other person to be at their best for 2026, I don't know how you don't say Gio Reyna, because that is the man that can go from being us being a team that can do an upset to us being a team that has expectations. You have a fully firing Pulisic and Gio Reyna in the attack. All of a sudden, they're intertwining with each other. They're combining, and you can't just focus on one guy in a front three, front four. That is a dangerous thing, especially considering the freedom that Poch gives those front players. And again, the talent is just undeniable. It's why I'm never too concerned when he's back in camp after 3-4 months off. Like, it's just there all the time, and he's proven it consistently that even a long layoff won't hurt him as far as his levels. So Gio Reyna is my most important player outside of CP10, and if we're talking 1A, 1B, he'd be right there too.
Write in vote. I'm fighting. I'm writing in. Oh, Jesus Christ. Writing in Kevin Sullivan. Let's go, baby. No, I completely agree with Gio Reyna. I didn't want to be accusing a Gio Reyna home and just throwing him as my number one. But everything you say, I 100% agree with, as that he could be the most important player. Him on his day is not at all a knock on Pulisic, but is potentially better than Pulisic. And that's with me saying Pulisic, I think, is a world-class winger and potentially the best player in Serie A before he got injured. So, I mean, Gio Reyna has an insane amount of talent. When he was playing for the US, had like a goal contribution of each of their last 7 goals at a certain point. He is certainly a difference maker, can slip in a player like a Balogun, like a Pepe, can slip in Weah. I mean, any of these people that have pace that make those runs in behind. Him and Pulisic both cooking together in combination play and slipping players in behind. I don't think the attack can get that much more deadly than having both those on the same page.
You heard it here first, boys. We're trying to slip it in behind.
We're trying to slip it in. But I think this bot is going a little off the rails. We've lost Mike. We're saying things that just aren't right. Why don't we close it out here, Nick? Give us your final thoughts on best players, anything you were thinking of here in terms of what you need to see out of players before March camp, before the World Cup.
Listen, my top 3 was Richards, Pepe, and Gio, and I think you can argue they're all question marks right now. So there is a lot of things that we need to see come to fruition. We don't have that much time, but these players, as well as a handful of others that we haven't mentioned, need to start showing up in big ways in order for us to feel confident going into the World Cup. Gio, baby.
Gio. Mike, final thoughts on U.S. men's national team players and who needs to really show up for the U.S. going forward here into the World Cup.
Final thoughts. All these dudes are important. Every fucking player needs to show up. It's not a one-man sport, obviously. We need complete buy-in. We need depth. We need 11 dudes who are ready to start, and we need 11 more ready to come off the bench. Player pool is fine. It's been good for a minute, but it's not where it should be. A lot of guys playing in Europe, a lot of guys who I have high expectations, high standards for, who don't meet them all the time. We're starting to see it more. This is probably the most excited I've been about the start of a European season for United States players. It's hard to get better than this, especially with Pulisic and McKennie doing their thing. Reyna starting to catch up as well. I just hope to see people stay healthy. Knock on wood. Bring back Ballo and Dest very, very soon. And get these guys running. This is going to be a huge spring, summer, going into the fall against Japan, as Flags had to tease. Good things. Good things. And God, we need to bring in some of these young guys soon, because the goalkeeper and the center backs, these dudes are not going to cut it come 2026.
Yeah, luckily there are reinforcements on the way. We do see our comments. We like what you guys are doing in there in their comment section, asking for a U.S. men's national team prospects rundown ranking. We will get that to you guys soon. Do not worry. All the people you need to know that are going to be on the come up, who could be the most important players next to Christian Pulisic in the coming years. There is a lot of talent. We will get those ranked, get it out to you guys so you guys can digest, learn a little bit more about them, and keep an eye out for the future of the U.S. men's national team. But until next time, peace.
Shout out to Mike Tracy.
Put it with the boys.
Segs with the boys. Podcasts.
Like, subscribe, subliminal messaging.